वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. We are doing the Shaitra Shaitra Vibhaga Yoga. This is a beautiful chapter for those people who are interested in going into the depth of the Bhagavad Gita learning. This is a central chapter which starts with the main topic of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Atma Vidya, Brahma Vidya. So far, the Lord has given us the teaching of who is a jiva in the first 6 chapters, and then who is Ishwara in the second set of 6 chapters from chapter 7 to 12. In this chapter, we are seeing primarily how jiva is one with Ishwara. That is the main topic of all Upanishads. It is also the main topic of Bhagavad Gita. In order to understand the oneness, we must understand what is called as consciousness or awareness. If you don't understand consciousness, you will never understand this chapter 13. What is consciousness and who am I with reference to consciousness? And who am I with reference to body, mind, and the world? This is the main topic in this chapter. In different ways, the Lord is trying to teach Arjuna his real nature. And through that, we are also learning what is my true nature. What was I before this body was born? What will I be when this body is not seen around? That is the topic. We all have the fear of death. How to get the fear of death out of our mind? All this is taught very beautifully by Lord Krishna to Arjuna, and he says that, Arjuna, you are this Chaitanyam, you are this awareness principle, and it is this awareness principle which is the core of the entire universe. So with this, Lord clears up Arjuna's mind all the fear he had about fighting the war. All the fears. Completely. I mean, he had to kill so many people in the battlefield. And this teaching was so relevant to Arjuna because he was fighting a dharmic battle. To us, we are in this battle of samsara. Samsara means constantly undergoing sorrow in life. The sorrows are physical, the sorrows are mental, sorrows are intellectual. These are the 3 types of sorrows all of us face. And how do I get rid of this sorrow is the primary teaching of awareness, consciousness. So in the first 3 verses of this chapter 13, the Lord says that we can divide the entire world into 2, Kshetram and Kshetrajna. Kshetram means the matter principle which is undergoing modifications. Kshetrajna means the consciousness principle the awareness principle, the sakshi principle, which is not changing, which is the spiritual essence in this world and in this body. In order to, so this is the first lesson in this chapter. Atma Anatma Viveka. Shaitra Shaitra Vibhaga. And that portion we have seen already. Shaitra means all our experiences, including our mind, including the body, including the world. This is the fundamental definition of anatma, which is called as Kshetram in this chapter. The field of experience is called as Kshetram. Who is the Kshetrajna? Kshetrajna is the experiencer, the seer, and that is the consciousness in this body. I am different than the body. I am the pure consciousness principle. The more I understand this consciousness principle, I will be able to disidentify with the body and claim I am this consciousness. That is the process of teaching in chapter 13, 14, and 15. You should be very clear what we are learning. And once you're clear what our learning process is, then everything becomes simple. So this is the basic of this whole 3 chapters. I am the seer consciousness. I am the spiritual essence. I am the spiritual essence not only in this body, but I am the spiritual essence in the whole creation, because the spiritual essence is one. In verse number 3, chapter 13, Kshetrakyam chapi mam viddhi sarva kshetreshu bharata, Shetrak Kshetrakyam jnanam tat kshetram mama. So this the third verse is a verse which talks about oneness between the jiva and Ishwara. Very important verse. This is the pramanam. This is the source by which we claim that I am the consciousness Kshetrajna. Like a child is taught in a kindergarten, Lord Krishna is teaching us how to differentiate the body, mind with this seer consciousness. So after the first 10 verses, then he talked about jnanam and nyayam. There were 3 pairs which we have to understand in this chapter: Kshetram and Kshetrajna, jnanam and nyayam. Now we are learning what is jnanam. We are in the middle, we are towards the end of learning what is jnanam. Jnanam in this chapter is values. Values which our mind should have in order to understand this consciousness. So all the values which are mentioned here, they are to be known by us, and if we do not have any one of these values, we have to learn to cultivate them. That is the purpose of describing these values. And we have seen up to 10th verse all the values, and last week we stopped in the 11th verse. Mai chanyanya yogena bhakti rabya vicharini Vivikta desha sevitvam aratir jana sansadi. Here in this verse, the Lord talks about three values. So after this jnanam values, we are going to start the topic of jnayam. What is the thing to be known by a jiva? That comes from the next verse, 12 onwards, verse 12 onwards. So if in this verse, mai chanya yogena bhakti avyabhicharini. This is all together as is one value. What does it mean? It means one single pointed devotion to the consciousness principle, which is the Lord. So if you love the Lord, you will love this consciousness principle because that is his nature. Ananya yogena bhakti. That means you may have devotion for so many things in life. You may be devoted to your spouse. You may be devoted to your child. But what he says here is you need one devotion which will never change. And that is the love to realize this nature of God. It should be full and it should be nitya bhakti. Avyabhicharini means not tainted by any other love for other things. It should be complete love towards the Lord. When you say Lord, see, Lord is an unknown factor in our life. We don't know who is that Lord. But we are making an effort. The mind is drawn towards the world today, towards the world of duty, to our children, to ourselves, to earn money, and so on. Here the Lord is trying to tell us how to drop this extrovertedness and slowly turn the attention inward, because that is where the real truth lies. The truth lies beyond the mind. And these are the values, if we have, it will help us to go one step further from our mind. It has got two benefits. Number one, our mind will become purer. It will become single pointed. We will be able to focus on anything, any issue in life. It can be a health issue which we are facing. It can be any other problems we are facing. But these values give us the benefit of single pointedness. Vivikta desha sevitvam. Vivikta desha sevitvam means learning to remain quiet for some time. Vivikta desha means come out of the humdrum of life, sit down in a place, close your eyes and meditate. This will help you to draw the mind away from the world. And for this, we can use for the meditation, for simple contemplation, we can use our prayer room. We can go to an ashram. We can go to a mountain or a hill or a temple nearby. Or we can go and sit in a boat in the high seas. There are different people who follow different ways of solitude. Going on a pilgrimage is also a form of solitude, of keeping the mind away from the usual aspects of our living, a samsaric life. So that is a value. Vivikta desha sevitvam is a value. The next 18th value is aratir jana samsari. That means we learn to avoid gossip. Many people, when they come to Bhagavad Gita, this usually happens. Normally, if you are not in the spiritual field, we will be talking and gossiping with our friends about totally irrelevant things. It's just a passing of time, and it is a social gathering. But when you want to know about yourself, about your nature, about the nature of the world, the value we need to cultivate is avoiding this gossip. Getting information from friends is not gossip. That is required in life. Suppose you want to know you have some problems in life, you can discuss with your friends. You can discuss with your relatives. That is not gossip. But simply discussing about some irrelevant thoughts about friends, that is what is called as gossip. So what is pointed out here is lack of attachment to worldly things and worldly people who are interested in gossip. Instead of that, it says you have attachment to satsanga. Satsanga means joining a group like this Bhagavad Gita class. This is called as a value for spiritual life. So what is pointed out here is, I like Vivikta Desha. Vivikta Desha means solitude, a place for solitude. And I dislike Aratir Jana Samsadi. I dislike any gossip situations. The next verse is the last verse. Adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattat jnanachva darshanam etat jnanamidi proktam ajnanam yadanyonyatha. Last two values are given in this verse. Adhyatma jnanam nityatvam. Adhyatma jnana means self-knowledge. Who am I? That knowledge, nityatvam, that means pursuing the self-knowledge is one of the cultivated values in life. This will help you. Doesn't come automatically to most of us. The firmness, that means I learn Bhagavad Gita chapter by chapter, verse by verse, understand the meaning, think about those, take my own notes. Whatever I listen, I also contemplate in my mind. This is what is called as Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam. It basically refers to Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. Puja, Japa. Like example, I chant Om Namah Shivaya. I chant Gayatri Mantra. Whether I chant 8 times, 24 times, 36 times, 108 times. These are all helping me to purify my mind. And whenever I bring in the contemplation of the mind itself, what is this mind which I have? That itself will purify the mind. It is an expression of divinity in me. That mind I possess is nothing but it's divine. It has got divine qualities. It is spiritual in nature. So that is all about Adhyatma Jnanam. I can talk a lot about this Adhyatma Jnanam because this is a very, very big topic in Upanishads. It deals with the mind at a very great length, very big depth. In Upanishads, we discuss this. In advanced texts like Naishkarma Siddhi and so on, we discuss this topic. Vichara Sagara also discusses Adhyatma Jnanam. Panchadashi is a beautiful text which talks about Adhyatma Jnanam. Chapter 10 of Panchadashi, Nataka Deepa Prakaranam, is completely devoted to Adhyatma Jnana. Tattva Jnana Artha Darshanam. Artha Darshanam. Tattva Jnana means knowledge of the ultimate reality. We have seen Tattva Bodha. So Tattva Bodha is the knowledge of the Supreme, the divine, the auspicious. In our study, we all have two goals. One goal is to get rid of sorrow. I don't want to have sorrow in life. Therefore, I pursue a spiritual study. What happens then? My sorrows, which I have to face, which comes because of my prarabdha, they become diluted. I get a shock absorber in me. In my own mind, I have a shock absorber of Atma, the knowledge of Atma. Like the car which I use has got a shock absorber, the roads have got a shock absorber so that you slow down. So like that, we have this knowledge of Atma. It becomes an absorber of all the sorrows I face in life. Because when we study the Bhagavad Gita, this study remains at the back of our mind when we face the world. And from time to time, this knowledge automatically comes to our background, to whatever we are facing in life. Be it very big sorrow of somebody passing away, be it small sorrows at home of small conflicts at home, be it some sorrow of not achieving a promotion in the office, not getting a promotion. These are all small sorrows we all face. Suppose I don't get an admission in a school for my child. That's also a sorrow. But then how do I get rid of those sorrows? Atyanta dukkha nivarti. This is what is called as Atyantika, means get rid of sorrow completely in my life. That is one of my goals. The second goal is Paramananda Prapti. Paramananda means supreme bliss, supreme happiness. We are all used to small happiness in life. I get some joy out of eating some nice dishes. I get some joy out of having a promotion in the office. I have small joys here and there. When my child comes first in the class, when she passes exams, when she gets married, when she has a child, so many different types of joys come in our minds. But really speaking, we are not fulfilled. After one joy is fulfilled, we look for the second joy, another joy. We wait for the next joy to come. So that is our nature of the mind, looking and always unfulfilled. So here is where Bhagavad Gita teaches us that if we have this jnanam, then what happens is we get joy of Atma. This joy of Atma is called as Parama Ananda Swarupam. This is Swarupa Ananda. It is not the Ananda from the world, but it is our own Ananda, which is totally covered today. It's covered because of disturbances in our mind. And the more we study this Bhagavad Gita, this becomes more and more evident. Etat jnanam iti proktam. Ajnanam yadatho yatha ataha anyata. These 20 values are the seeds of knowledge. They tell us what is the value of having this in our life. For example, suppose we don't have this, then what will happen is we will have all the opposite values. Instead of ahimsa, we'll have himsa. Instead of jnanam, we'll have ajnanam. So we will remain as a samsari. We will remain as an agnani, ignorant person in life. That is what most of us are before we come to the study of Bhagavad Gita. We just run through our life, and then we, whatever is the sorrow, we face it, and then we leave this world. But here there is an opportunity for us to know our real nature. And this, according to Lord Krishna, he says that this is the best you can get, the best benefit out of life. Many Upanishads, they say, Vivek Chudamani also says, don't leave this opportunity of learning something while you are having this life in this body. Learn who you are. Learn what the world is. This is a great achievement in life. This is moksha purushartha. So, what is the value? What is the value of value? What happens if we have the value? That is called value of value. We get a clearer picture of our life. Like a radio has got a fine tuning, like a camera has got a focusing ability, our mind will get the focusing ability to look at the world positively all the time. We will never be down. We will always look at the whole universe as in a balanced view. Otherwise, what happens is we are full of agitations, conflicts, and they lead to more sorrow, which is called as a rajasic tendency of the mind. What is rajasic tendency? We are going to study this in the next chapter. Chapter 14 is Gunatraya Vibhaga. What are the three modes of the mind? Many people love to listen to this chapter because it talks about our own mind. So these values are a means for getting the knowledge, getting the wisdom of Atma. Once we start cultivating even one of the values, what happens is all other values start coming to us. It's like a magnet. We get attracted to other values automatically. We will absorb like a sponge. All other values will be absorbed automatically without our even knowing. And then what happens is the spiritual wisdom, which is given in the Shastras, they are assimilated by us. Many times we just listen to a Gita or Upanishads and then we forget about it. We are not able to digest the knowledge. The digestion and assimilation of the knowledge is important for transformation of the mind. The pattern of thinking of the mind has to change for moksha. Manitvam, dhambitvam, himsa, these are all the opposite values which we see in ourselves. Manitva means egoistic personality. And what is the right value? Amanitvam. Amanitvam is dropping our ego. Similarly, himsa, dambitvam, and so on. When we have these wrong values, that is what is called as jivabhava. I lead a life of jiva. When I have the values, I slowly start becoming a nyani. Nyani bhava, jiva bhava. And who is a nyani? The one who has got the self-knowledge, clear self-knowledge. Not vagueness. I may be Atma, maybe there is Lord in the universe. No, there is no vagueness about it. Pure, clear knowledge. That is what we should all aim for. Initially, the knowledge may be a little bit flickering. It may come, it may go, but I have to hold on to that knowledge. The more and more I study, the more knowledge of this Atma. We learn many things in Bhagavad Gita. What you should always keep in mind is Atma. Where is Atma? That is what I want to know. 701 verses are there. Many verses, they talk about values, they talk about other things, but few verses, they talk about the nature of a jiva, nature of Ishwara. The nature of Ishwara, jiva, is what we are going to study from the 13th verse on. That is, these are the important verses. So, jnanam are basically values required to know nyayam. Nyayam is the supreme reality. Supreme reality means what? It is, you can call it God, you can call it Chaitanyam, you can call it Sakshi, you can call it Brahma Vidya. Many names are there, but they are all to be known by us. When we know that, then we say, Aham Brahma Asmi. I am that Chaitanyam. I am that pure consciousness. This Aham Brahma Asmi is a sentence coming from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. It is a sentence, it's a Mahavakya. After learning the values, after knowing this Nyayam, I can know that I am this consciousness. I have total identification with this Kshetrajna, the seer. I never lose sight of the seer at all times in my life. The first thing which I should know is I am the awareness, consciousness principle. After that only the sight comes, the sound comes, the sense of touch comes, the sense of taste comes. So I am is a continuous sense in all of us. That I am is the spiritual jnana, which is called as Nyayam in this chapter. So we have finished 3 sections. We are entering into the 4th section, very important section. It is the same Kshetrajna which we learned earlier. The Lord said, I am the Kshetrajna. When he said, I am the Kshetrajna, that means his nature is consciousness. That is lesson number 1. The second lesson is, he also says that I am the Kshetrajna in all the bodies. In your body, in your child's body, in every body, there is a Kshetrajna. There is a consciousness principle. There is no difference in the consciousness. The light in which we see the world, I see the world outside. The light through which my friend is seeing the world outside, my son is seeing the world outside, the light is one. That is called as consciousness awareness. Every time we are studying any Upanishads, we are only studying what is this consciousness. In different ways, we are studying this one principle. So there are 7 verses, 13 to 19. And these 7 verses is a central portion of this chapter. Nyayam yat pravashyami yajnatvamrutam ashnute anadi matparam brahma nasat uchyate. Now the Lord says, I will declare what has to be known for gaining immortality. What a great goal. The Lord is teaching us, Arjuna, you are immortal. I'm going to teach you that knowledge now. Get ready. And what is this knowledge? The knowledge is about the beginningless supreme Brahman. Anadimat param Brahma. And what is this Brahman? What is this Lord? What is this consciousness? It is neither Sat, neither Asat. This is how the Lord introduces this supreme knowledge, the divine knowledge, the nature of the jiva. And by knowing this, what is the benefit? The benefit is I can also say, I am this consciousness, I am this awareness. And once I say this, once I claim this, I can say, I am immortal. At any age, you can learn this. You may be 80-year-old, you may be 95 years old, you may be 20 years old. The knowledge is the same because it is the same in everyone. Some people come to this knowledge at a young age, and then they have the whole life to live as this consciousness, as this Chaitanya. They are very lucky. If you come when you are young and you learn this, very lucky. But even if you are old and you are learning this for the first time, you are coming to Bhagavad Gita and learning this, this is a blessing. It's a blessing from the Lord for you to listen to this knowledge. Many of us go through life even without knowing there is a text called as Bhagavad Gita. So this verse is a beautiful verse. It tells us what is the benefit of knowing or having the knowledge of Brahma Vidya. In every chapter, Lord has said, Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita So Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade. This is what he has said in the end of every chapter. He reminds us again and again that in Bhagavad Gita, I am learning Brahma Vidya, which means the knowledge of this consciousness, and Yoga Shastra. Yoga Shastra means how to use this knowledge in life and lead a life of Jivan Mukta. That means I am free from the tyrannies of my mind. What is this knowledge? Let us go deeper and deeper into this subject. There's so much of depth in this knowledge. All the knowledge of the Upanishads is here. What I am teaching in Mandukyo Upanishad is the same thing which is being taught in the Bhagavad Gita in the 13th chapter, in the 13th verse. This knowledge this Chaitanyam, the consciousness principle, the Turiyam principle, for those who are doing the Mandukyo Upanishad, this is not, it is neither Sat, it is neither Asat. It is neither Sat means it's not existing. It is not an existent being. It is not Asat, means it is not non-existent, non-being. But it is beginningless Brahman. Beginningless Brahman means what? It is always there. You see, in life, we find there are certain things which come and go. Like our waking state comes and goes, dream state comes and goes, certain people in our life come and go. Then that is all what is called as an appearance. We can put them neither as Sat, neither as Asat, because they are all appearances. Sat means what? Which is always there. There is only one thing which is always there. That is what is called as this consciousness. Everything else is Asat compared to that consciousness principle. But that consciousness principle can be called as Sat only with reference to the world. When there is no world being experienced, it is neither Sat or Asat. That is what it means here. So, by knowing this Chaitanyam, Chaitanyam is something which is an independent principle. It exists independently without the body, without the mind. At the same time, body and mind are dependent on it. That is the beauty of this consciousness principle. It's a very unique principle in this world. That is why the Lord says, I am in them, they are in me, but I am not in them. Chapter 9, verse 4 and 5. So here, by knowing this, I will attain immortality. Immortality means free from birth and death cycle, which is called as samsara. Coming and going, coming into this body and again leaving, again coming back into this body, again leaving. This coming and going is what is called as change. Any change causes pain at whatever time it comes. So, if I want to be the changeless, I must know what is changeless, and that is described beautifully in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. This verse, which I have quoted here, this comes from chapter 1, the 3rd section, 28th verse. So here the central thing which we should understand is that knowing this consciousness helps me to go away from evil. Asatoma sadgamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya, vrityoma amritangamaya. That is the central message in this verse. From darkness, lead me to light. Here, darkness means darkness of death, darkness of ignorance. And lead me to immortality. From knowledge, from ignorance, lead me to light. From mortality, lead me to immortality. And all this is from where? By knowing the knowledge of Chaitanya, by knowing the knowledge of Atma. Mrityoma amritangamaya. We chant this very often in the yoga classes. At the end of yoga classes, we chant this mantra. Asatoma sadgamaya, tamosoma jyotirgamaya, mrityoma amritangamaya. What it means is, from death lead me to immortality. From evil lead me to the good. From darkness lead me to light. From the realm of ego, lead me to the egoless Atma, which is what is called as immortality, which is what is called as changeless principle, decayless principle, immortal principle. Because you see, there is only one principle by which I can see my body. You see, we are all seeing this body. That who sees this body? The body is seen by consciousness, which is the spiritual principle. What is seeing my thoughts? The thoughts are seen by the same consciousness. Body is gross, thoughts are subtle. And who is seeing this world? It is the same consciousness. When it is going through the eyes, it sees the forms and colors. Same consciousness when it hears the sound through the ears, it hears the sound. Same light, same consciousness when it is in the present in the through the tongue, the instrument called as the tongue, it tastes. So there are 5 senses and there are 5 sense objects. All these are coming into the consciousness in this body. That consciousness is what is called as nyayam. If I know that consciousness, I can say that that consciousness is not born. The gross body is born from the mother. The mind, which was always existing in this universe as a jiva, that comes into the gross body, enjoys for a certain number of years, and then leaves the body, takes another body. But the consciousness in the body never changes. That is called as nyayam. And what is this ego? Ego is the sense of ownership or identification, the body as me. We take the body and say the body is me. It becomes me. It is called as superimposition. I am the pure Atma, crystal clear, formless, invisible. My senses cannot see that. That consciousness is a pure being. It's a pure being. It exists forever. I am that pure being which is always existing, always there. Whatever may be the age of the body is old, but the consciousness is always ageless because it's never born. My attention has always been on the body. I've always been having a wrong. It's a mistake of the intellect in this body. It's an error of the mind. That error needs correction. And the moment I correct it, I'm free. And this knowledge has to sink into the consciousness mind. Below the conscious, the subconscious has to assimilate this knowledge and own up and always keep saying, I am the Sakshi, I am the awareness principle. We need to, even at any age, you can practice this. First, you say to yourself, I am the Atma, I am the consciousness, I am the awareness. Whatever the body is doing is an extra thing. Is something which is added on, and I take it as I am doer, I am enjoyer, I am seer. All these are all additions. But the basic thing is what? I am immortal. I am that reality. That consciousness is called as the supreme reality. And what is the empirical reality? Empirical reality is the body. It is called vyavaharika satta. Vyavaharika means it is there. In Mandukya Upanishad, we are going to see this in depth. In the Wednesday class, we will see the depth of this empirical and the supreme reality. But here, what we have to understand is, it is a passing appearance, which we take it and we call it as life. A day comes, a day goes, again a day comes, another day goes, experiences come, experiences go. But our attention is on the experiences, but not on the experiencer, the light. So here we are only learning what the tradition has taught us, that we are that light of consciousness. We are not creating that light today. We are not inventing that light today. It is always existed. Keno Upanishad says, na tatra chakshur gacchati, na vak gacchati, no manaha, na vigmaha, na vijanimaha. So the eye does not go there, the speech does not go there, the mind does not go there. We do not know that, because everything which we know is through the mind and the intellect which we have. And the Guru says, I don't know how to instruct a student about this, because it is neither known by the intellect or it is neither unknown by the intellect. But then the Guru says, I have heard it. We have heard it from our Guru. Those people who have perceived this consciousness, they have taught to me that beyond the body and mind, there is a consciousness which is immortal. The problem is we are not aware of this. First time when we come to Bhagavad Gita, we learn about this. In Tattva Bodha, we learn about this. Drisya Viveka, we learn about it. Slowly the learning happens, and then later on, what happens is I assimilate and claim this as my nature. That is what we are going to do from this 13th verse onwards. We are going to claim this Atma and say that is me. These 7 verses, they are very important verses. They will teach us that I am not the body, I am not the legs, I am not the hands, I am not the, so many things it will teach us. But we have to keep on remembering this teaching. This consciousness has no adi. No adi means there is no birth. No anta. Anta means there is no death for consciousness. But the body has got 6 modifications, which we all know. Jayate, asti, vardate, viparinamate, apakshiyate, vinashriti. Tattva-bodha. All the 6 modifications are mentioned very clearly in Tattva-bodha, the basics textbook of Vedanta, which I have taken 5 sessions. If you go through the videos, it will be there. You can revise them. So again and again, we have to bring our attention to the what we are not, and then we have to say, I am the consciousness, I am not the body or mind. That is the exercise which we have to personally make. It is not a time-bound exercise. I don't need to sit in meditation to do this exercise. Maybe in the beginning, yes. I bring my attention to that consciousness and then I own it. In the beginning stages, it may be required. After you practice for say 10, 15 times, you can then have this as a knowledge. And then let the mind remember this again and again. That is the way assimilation takes place. At absolute level, only this consciousness is there. It is beginningless, it is endless, and that is my absolute nature. What is nature? Nature is something which never changes. The nature of sugar is sweet. The nature of fire is heat. The nature of salt is saltiness. So the nature never changes. At any time in the past, sugar was sugar. In future, the same sugarness will continue. Similarly, the body, mind, the nature of these five elements was consciousness. It was born out of consciousness. It will resolve into consciousness, but the consciousness never dies. This is what we will be studying in the Mandukya also. The waker consciousness, the dreamer consciousness, the sleeper consciousness. They are all appearances. They have change. They come and go, come and go. But what is the substratum? So the screen behind the waker eye, that screen is called as consciousness. We all see the movies in the waking state, dream state, sleep state, when the movies end. But the screen of light always is shining, which is Atma, which is called as Brahman. You can call by any name. These are all names. At different places, we will use Atma, we will use Brahman, we will use Sakshi, we will use Kutastha. All this will come. In the 15th chapter, it will come. So, Prakriti or Maya, this Maya means matter. Okay. So, matter is a realm of transaction. This entire waking state is a realm of matter. It's a realm of matter means in this time, we are supposed to act, learn, use our jnana indriyas and use our karma indriyas and use our mind. That is what is called as Vyavahara, the field of transactions. But the field of transaction is not continuously there. It ends. It ends in sleep state. Again, it comes tomorrow. Again, it ends. Again, it comes. Again, it ends. And in death, what happens? Again, it ends. Again, it comes when we again when you are born in another body. So this is a continuous cycle which is called as Prakriti. Prakriti is 6 modifications, which is a continuous change in the realm of time and space. And this space and time are also objects of this consciousness. Why do we say object? The time itself is an object because this time is not experienced by me in my sleep state. There's no time. I experience time in the waking state and in the dream state, but there is no time in the sleep state. There is no time, there is no space, there are no objects. And it is also my own experience. It is not somebody else's experience which I am remembering. So there has to be something in me which is not changing. That is the law. Any change can happen only in the substratum of changeless. Sat, Asat, Brahman. Sat means what exists, and what exists we can define it by jati, gunas, kriya, and sambandha. This is what is a definition of Sat. Sat means existent. We say the world is existent, the table exists, that the tree exists. So we can define a tree. All things which are existent, we can call it. We can use the jati. Jati means what is the species. Guna. Guna means attribute. We can use the guna. It's a red flower. Red. It's a white lily. These are all by which we can say kriya. Kriya means he's a driver, he's a doctor, he is a runner. By using action, we can describe objects and beings which are Sat. What is Asat? Asat means it never exists. Like flowers in the sky, grown in the sky. You can never see it. Or a rabbit's horn, or a cold, hot ice cream. It never exists. So those are known as unknown. Known are those which have got attributes Unknown are those which have got no attributes and they do not exist. And what is this consciousness which we call it a Brahman? It is neither exist, neither it doesn't exist. Neither it is known, neither it is unknown. But it is always there. A thing can be known if it becomes unknown at some other time. For example, the world is known in the waking. It becomes unknown in the sleep state. But suppose there is something which is always there, like the sunlight is there on the earth in the waking state. It is always there. But the sunlight is also not seen in the sleep state. But what is there in all the three states of our experiences is this light of consciousness or Chaitanya. Or we call it Brahman in the Upanishads. It's a different name, that's all. So this consciousness is other than known and unknown. This is what is said in the Keno Upanishad. And there what it means is it is neither known by the intellect or neither it is unknown by the intellect, but it is beyond both. Why do we say beyond both? Because it is the light in which the intellect is functioning. In the waking state, it is the light of consciousness which is illuminating our mind. The world is known in Jagrat, therefore we say it is Sat. It appears. It becomes unknown in deep sleep, therefore we say Asat. We call it Sat when it appears. We call the same thing Asat. So is the Jagrat Avastha, is it Sat? No. Is it Asat? No. Because it becomes Sat again. So what do we call this world? It is called as Mithya. Mithya means it is an appearance. What are the other examples of Mithya? Rope snake is an example of Mithya. Shell silver is an example of Mithya. Mirage water is an example of Mithya. World is an example of Mithya. The whole world. When you say world, it includes our body, it includes our mind. Once you put our body and mind into the world, it is called as Kshetram. A new technical term is given when you put the body into the world, the mind into the world, and then you're standing apart from this entity called the world. Then you call yourself consciousness. You call yourself Sakshi. You call yourself Chaitanyam. You call yourself Brahma. As long as you are the body and the mind, you say, I am the ego. I am the jiva. As a jiva, you are always going to face sorrow in life. Always. As an ego, because ego is nothing but it is a shadow of that light of consciousness. And this ego to itself is mithya, is a false entity. It appears and disappears, appears and disappears. Consciousness is other than known and unknown, and it is the light of all lights. We are going to see that description here very soon. It illumines the objects of the sense organs. The five sense organs, the five sense objects, they are all illumined. Illumined means what? They are made known to me. Known to the intellect. And the same thing is made unknown to the intellect. When it is unknown to the intellect in me, the mind in me, it is called as absence of all objects. In sleep, it is unknown. The world becomes known in the waking state. The world becomes unknown in the sleep state, where nothing can be objectified. So what I do is, there is a process of analysis, which is called as bhaga tyaga lakshana. Bhaga tyaga lakshana. What is the meaning of this bhaga tyaga lakshana? I am the consciousness. I learn in the waking state. I am a mixture of the world and me. Slowly, I remove the world away from me. Bhaga, tyaga. Tyaga means I learn to disidentify with the world. When I am an experiencer of the world, in the waking state, I learn to do this removal of the world from me. And then what happens? I retain that consciousness, awareness. Retaining that consciousness, I learn to own that consciousness as me, as my real nature. In Brahmanic Upanishads, a quotation in chapter 4 of Brahmanic Upanishads, it says that in that state of consciousness, the knower's function, that means the Chaitanya's function of knowing, is never lost. This light of consciousness, Atma, is immortal. It never dies. Therefore, by owning up this light as my nature, I can also say I am immortal. And in that light of consciousness, there is no second thing. This is a very important point which we learn in Vedanta Upanishad. I'm trying to bring that point here because ultimately we must be able to say, I am Advaitam, non-dual in my nature. What is the meaning of non-dual? Non-dual means this world is dependent on me, the consciousness, for its manifestation and unmanifestation in sleep. But I am an independent principle. I am immortal. I am not affected by time and space like the world or the body or the mind. This world exists in me, resolves in me, born out of me, but I am ever there. I am the source of this entire Jagat. That is the ultimate teaching of the Upanishads, which Lord Krishna is slowly trying to bring that teaching into these verses. And not only this consciousness is described like this, in the 3rd chapter of Brahmanic Upanishad, the Upanishad, the Guru there, Yajnavalkya, he teaches that this consciousness is within which all these transactions happen. The transactions of the prana, the transactions of the digestion, the transaction of knowing, not knowing, intellectuation, imaginations, all this is happening where? In consciousness. And that consciousness is the self of all. There are 2 processes which are involved in meditation as well as in the teaching of Vedanta. The first process is Atma Anatma Viveka, discrimination. So you discriminate and you come to a conclusion. There are two things called as, one is pure Chaitanyam, another is the world. This is the step number one in teaching. I will tell you about meditation this next. But in teaching, the first step is what? Discrimination. And the second step is what? The second step is, now that you have learned to discriminate Atma and Anatma, you must learn this Atma is Sarvatma. It is the final, ultimate abode of everything. It is one consciousness. This is the second step, Sarvatma. So first step is called as Adhyaropa. The second step is called as Apavada. Adhyaropa means superimposition. You superimpose the world on Atma and learn to discriminate. In the second method, what you do is you learn to negate the Anatma and say that in Atma everything exists and Atma exists independent. So this is the process of teaching, which we'll be using in these 7 verses. That's why I'm bringing out how this teaching is taught. This is what is called as Vedanta. Suppose you learn the Bhagavad Gita, just the sentences, and you try to understand the meaning, you will not understand anything. There is a science behind revealing what the Bhagavad Gita is teaching. That science is called as Vedanta. That is why we study Tattva Bodha, Atma Bodha, Diridishya Viveka. We study all the Prakarana Granthas to come to this final study of discrimination between Atma and Anatma, and then claiming the Sarvatma Bhava. 2 steps in teaching. I'll be repeating the same thing in the Mandukyo Upanishad class also later on. Coming to meditation. In Mandukya Upanishad Wednesday classes, I'm going to start meditation also. So for those of you who are interested in meditation, you can join the Wednesday class. And you can even listen to the talks on the whenever you, because I'm circulating that on the video to the people who are registered. So the second is the meditation. In meditation also the same thing we do. Many of you who have attended the lectures so far, I have taken about 20 meditation sessions before. In meditation also, what do? We say, I am we say, I am the Sakshi. So I am the Sakshi means I am the Atma. I am the light of Chaitanyam. I am the consciousness. When we close our eyes, we first say, I am the light of consciousness. I am not a son or a brother or a father. These are all my roles which I play. Then what do I say? I say, I am observing my mind, my thoughts. So I discriminate Sakshi and mind, thoughts. This is called as Viveka, process of Atma, Anatma, Viveka. Atma is the Sakshi, Anatma is the thoughts, Anatma is all the thoughts which keep coming in my mind. So I am aware of my thoughts. Then this is called as the first portion. I learn to hear the sound of Om in Omkara meditation. Then that is the first portion. It takes time to understand, to create the distance between Sakshi and mind. It takes time in meditation. After doing that, then the second step is there. The second step is what? That Sakshi is the light in which all the thoughts come and go, and I own up that Sakshi as the ultimate in creation. Because all the thoughts, they merge in consciousness. All the objects of the world, they are all coming into my mind in the form of vrittis. I have the thought, the vritti of the form and shape in my mind. I have the vritti of sound in my mind. I have the vritti, the thought form of the taste in my mind. Everything comes to me, the ego I, which is there in this body, that is the ego I, that is the ultimate in this body. And who is seeing this ego? This in meditation, it's very easy. We can see our thoughts. All the thoughts are all belong to whom? They belong to the ego I, the small I. And who is seeing this? The supreme I, the conscious I. And what happens is the negation takes place, apavada takes place, and then we say that this entire world of thoughts and the world outside is nothing but this consciousness. Then my learning is complete. Then I can easily claim I am the Sakshi. I am this Brahman. I am this pure consciousness. Avilupta Chaitanya. Consciousness of knower never ceases. That is the meaning of Avilupta Chaitanyam, which is mentioned in this Bhagavad Upanishad, which I have quoted here. Avilupta means nirvikara. This consciousness, the Sakshi, never changes. I sit in meditation. 1 week ago, I was aware of the thoughts. Tomorrow, when I sit, I am aware of the thoughts. What has changed? What change is of the thoughts. Last week, I was thinking of my son. I was thinking of so many things. Tomorrow, when I sit, I will be thinking of my office, about my health, the body, the mind, and so on. What has changed? Only the thoughts. What is the light in which these thoughts were seen, known, is the light of Chaitanya, which is what is called as nirvikara Chaitanya. No modification less Chaitanya. Everything else is a modification. This is how we do Atma Vidya. So, we never say that the world is Sat, world is Asat. What we say is they all appear in me, the consciousness which is beyond Sat and Asat. Nyayam refers to Brahman. Nyayam, now we are going to see Nyayam. What is that Vastu? What is the thing to be known, which is called as Brahman, which is beyond the known and unknown. And this awareness, this light of consciousness reveals what? It reveals some things in the Jagrat Avastha. It reveals nothing in the sleep state, and itself is self-evident, and that light is indescribable. Because the words, we can only indicate it. We are in these 7 verses, we are going to only use indications. And what are the indications in this verse? Anadimat. You see, in this verse, we are seeing Anadimat means beginningless. 6 indications are there. No, 5 indications are there. First is Anadimat, beginningless. Free for Anadimat means it's free from modifications, free from time principle. And it's perfect, absolute, because there is no change. It is right from the beginning, it is there. And you may think that what is this consciousness we are talking about? But main thing is you should understand it is the It is the knowledge principle. It has got all the knowledge of the whole universe. The creation of the whole universe is there in that. It's got the power. Second is it is Param. Param. Why is it called Param? It is supreme. It's divine. It never dies. It's immortal. It's limitless. That is why it is called as Param. Param normally means it is limitless with reference to time, limitless with reference to space. Amritam. Amritam means immortal, not affected by time. Everything else in the world is affected by time, including the sun. They say in the Shastra, even the sun has a time when it will not be there. The earth has a time when it will not be there. The five elements will vanish in Pralaya Avastha. It is called as Brahman because it is all pervading. It is all pervading. Brihatvat Brahma, Nirupadikam. That is, it doesn't have any upadi. Upadi means what? The whole world is there as an upadi for that Brahman, for that awareness. The entire world is like a upadi. Like upadi means what? For the crystal, like Atma or the consciousness, there is a red flower. The red flower is the upadi by which we see the crystal to be red. The world, the consciousness awareness is pure. It's a pure being. In that pure being, I'm seeing this body. I'm seeing this world. So, the Nirupadika is called as Brahman. Is called as this Chaitanya. Nasat Asat. It is neither known. We cannot say it is known because what? It happens to be the subject. It is not an object. An object can become known or unknown. So all these are indications to reach that subject in us, which is called as consciousness. This verse is a pramanam for that pure consciousness. Pramanam means it's a source. It is the source of knowledge by which we come to know what is this Neyam Vastu, what is this Kshetrajna. It is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. That is what the Upanishad says. Upanishad says that it is, these are all technical terms. In Taittiriya Upanishad, this particular verse, Om Brahma Vidya Apnoti Param Tadesham Yuktam Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman Soshnute Sarvan Kaman Saha Brahmana Vipaschiteti. This reality, this Atma awareness has to be known through the Lakshana Vrittis. Lakshana Vritti means indicative meanings. There is no direct meaning of this consciousness. So, Kshetrajna is the jiva, individual jiva. It is Sakshi with reference to the Jagat. Sakshi is with reference to the Jagat. That means when the world is seen, it is supposed to be, it is said that it is the Karanam for the Jagat to be experienced. Before the study of Brahma Vidya or Bhagavad Gita, we take ourselves to be ahamkara, the ego. After the study, we take ourselves to be this Sakshi, this Chaitanya. And this Chaitanyam is the one which has to be known. That is what Lord Krishna is saying in this verse. In the 13th verse, he says, Chaitanyam is the one which has to be known. It is Anadi, it is Param, it is this Kshetrajna. Jiva Brahma Aikyam is Nyayam. Whenever we say what is to be known, it is nothing else but the oneness has to be known between that jiva and that Brahman. That consciousness is the same. Whether it is in an individual body or in the whole universe, there is only one consciousness. That is the message of all the Mahavakyas. Prajnanam Brahma, I am Atma Brahma, Tat Tvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi. All of you have heard this before. These are all the 4 Mahavakyams in 4 Upanishads. The existence is different than knownness. Knowing is a process. It is a process which happens in awareness. But awareness itself is beyond the known and unknown. In the following verses, we will see how this consciousness appears in the world. How does this shaitrakya, how does this nyayam appear in the world? That is the topic we are going to see next. Very beautiful topic. The central theme again. You see this. Knowing this, what happens is we are getting closer to understanding of this pure consciousness, which happens to be my nature. When I understand these verses, what will happen to me? I will understand I am this consciousness and I am not the body. I am not the mind. This is the trick of Bhagavad Gita. It will teach us what we are and we'll be able to drop automatically what we are not. So we'll see that next week with 14th verse. Sarvata pani padam tat sarvato shishiro mukham sarvata shrutimam loke sarvavavritti tishtati. We'll see this verse next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnahat Purnamudachade Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. I'll see if there's anybody, any messages in the chat. Ramesh. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Would you like to ask any questions? I've asked Shanmugam to unmute everybody so that you can ask questions if you have anything. Bolo Bhava.
The verse of you were saying like these 20 values are the seeds of knowledge. What are they?
Yeah, they are values. Values means that we should just have them in us. That means we should be able to enjoy solitude. We should be able to enjoy living without any ahimsa to others. These are all different values, which we all have. You see, most of us have these values. Here, Lord Krishna is only trying to say that these are important when you want to know who you are. And when you want to know the nature of Bhagavan, you must have these values. That's all.
The discipline, they call it.
Yeah, they are called as discipline. You're right. Okay. Anybody else has a question? Yeah.
Okay, so I think the way we understand is anatma is unreal or asat.
Correct.
Whereas the consciousness is sat or real.
Yes.
But what we heard today is that it is not sat or asat. That's, I think, a little bit confusing. Probably, I think if you can explain. Okay, it is pretty easy to say it is not asat, but why are we saying it is not sat also?
Yeah, here in this particular verse, only, in this context, you see the context here is sat and asat. Here, sat does not mean existence. It does not mean a reality which is there in Sat Vidya of Chandogya Upanishad and all that, where we say Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. That Sat is not here. That meaning of Sat is not here. It is not the reality we are talking. It is here we are talking about knownness or unknownness, which refers to only the objects of the world. It is not like the objects of the world which are known and which are unknown. That is what we are saying. Here we are not saying that Brahman is Satyam or Jnanam, Anantam. That we are not saying. Here we are only referring, the context here is with reference to objects, because in the next verse onwards, the Lord is going to teach us, I am not all the bodies, all the legs, I am not the hands. So he is talking about objects of the world which have got Sat and Asat in them. Knowingness, it is knowingness, it is not knowledge.
Or can I say it is probably like you are trying to say that it is neither the material, or neither the non-living being, or neither it is living being also.
Yeah, you can say that way also.
Not beyond this, that is what is.
Yeah, you can say that, yes.
Okay.
It is neither object, like an inert object, or we can say it is neither a conscious being, which is got a reflection of the consciousness, but it is not always there.
Okay, sure, understood.
Okay, good, very good. It's a good analysis, but very, very, very good. It's a very deep analysis. Well done. Okay, anybody else has any other question? Okay, so we will then catch up next week with the next verse, and then we'll continue our study of this 13th chapter.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you, and good night.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.